Alright, so today we're going to be talking about how players should be approaching Memory of Chaos in Honkai Star Rail. Now, Memory of Chaos honestly serves as the main late game content because, while Simulated Universe, can be difficult at first, once you get a good grasp of, dealing with it and stuff like that and getting, your ability tree leveled up, it's honestly not too hard. It's just kind of like a weekly thing that you do, whereas Forgotten Hall and, mostly Memory of Chaos, it ends up being pretty much a late game kind of thing. And one of the main reasons you want to do it is because with Forgotten Hall, as well as the weekly bosses, you'll get some of these materials, these Lucent Afterglows, and once you get 200 of them, you can get one of these light cones. And some of these light cones are very good, especially this one. If you have Bronya, this light cone is amazing on her if you don't have Bronya's 5-star light cone. And there's some solid ones in here. I'm not going to go through all of them individually, but there is definitely some solid stuff in there. But to go on to how you want to deal with Memory of Chaos, and I guess this can also extend to the last 5 stages of the regular Forgotten Hall, since that's where you start needing to have 2 teams. The way you really want to think about this, right, especially once you get to Memory of Chaos, is, first of all, don't expect to be like, oh, I'm going to clear all of these stages and get all these rewards. Because, if you're able to clear all the stages, I'm actually going to go to the event screen because I started to put it there. You'll be able to get 600 Stellar Jades, 20 of these Traveler's Guides, 10 of the Refined Aether, 20 of these Crystals, 80 of the Lucent Afterglows, and then 300,000 credits. Automatically, just don't expect, especially very early on, that you're going to be able to get even a lot of these rewards. Once players first get to Memory of Chaos, once they're if they're at the point where they can beat stage 15 here, which stage 15 has level 65 enemies, and then if we go to Memory of Chaos, stage 1 is going to have 68 enemies. While it's only a little bit of a jump, sometimes you might just not be able to get the 3-star for even stage 1. As you can see here, I've done stages 1 through 4, but I haven't even 3-starred them before. I 3-starred stage 1 in the last Forgotten Hall, the Memory of Chaos enemies, but since they reset the enemies, it's going to be a different experience every time, which I think is really nice. If you played Genshin, it's very similar to this Spiral Abyss. And so, when going into this, it's definitely important to, first of all, have 2 sort of team comps built up, and also be able to kind of be flexible with them. So, the two I obviously have more than 8 characters built up, so I have a bit more flexibility on my end right now. But generally, you want to have 2 major team comps, and you also want to go by the types, which I'll go into that in a second. But in terms of my 2 major team comps, I'll kind of just put them on here. I have my main team, which ends up being Seela, Bronya, some third character, for right now I'll put Silverwolf, and then Bailu. And then my other team being Serval, Asta, either Welt or Pella, and then Natasha. And then, if I need them for other types, I have my Physical Trailblazer, I have Ting Yun, and I have Pella. Then I'm going to build up some other characters too, so I'll have some more variety there. But I won't, just bring these teams to everything, because they might not have specific, type, strengths and stuff like that you need for the stages. So, if we're looking at this stage, for example, because you have 2 major enemies per stage, at least at the beginning of Memory of Chaos. I haven't done anything past stage 4, so I don't know how it really progresses. I'm sure it gets much harder, but at least for this one, we have 2 major enemies. We have the Silvermane Lieutenant, who's weak to Physical, Ice, and Quantum, and then you have the Guardian Shadow, which is weak to Physical, Wind, and Quantum as well. So from that, we already know that Physical and Quantum are going to be very good in this half. Then for the second half, this Void Ranger has weaknesses to Physical, Wind, and Imaginary. And then the Disciple of Sanctus Medicus Shapeshifter has weaknesses to Ice, Wind, and Imaginary. So just really trying to match up those weakness types to the stages really helps out. So just by seeing this alone on the first one, I know I would want to bring my Seela, because both enemies are having that quantum weakness, so it's going to be really strong to deal with them. Then I always make sure for me to pair my Sela with Bronya, because they're honestly still the best duo in the game, I feel like. And I really don't know what's going to happen to make that not be the case. It's probably going to take a lot. Then, because of that, I also know that we have an ice weakness, and we also have the physical weakness as well, and then the wind weakness. I don't have a wind character built up besides Bronya, and I'm not really going to be using her for weakness break that much. So like that weakness doesn't really matter too much for me, honestly. So then, and sometimes what I'll do, I'll like split between the two, but for right now, I'll focus on one team at a time for you all. Then here we either have a choice, right, for our third character, because our last character I want to have it as a healer or defense character. I obviously have two healers. I do have Bailu as well as Natasha, but I know not everyone will. So if you have like a Fire MC or a March 7th build, or if you have a Japard, you'll be able to use those characters as well for that like more defensive slot. But then for here, I also want to have one of the other weaknesses, so either physical or ice. But since both of them have the physical weakness, I would go with the physical MC. I mean, I could try Pella if the physical MC is not cutting it, because there's no limits to how many times you can try these stages, which is cool. So you can always just change up your teams between runs, optimize, and try to get as many of the stars as you can. And then lastly, I'll put a healer on. I can decide the healer later depending on the need for the stage, but it'll either be Bailu or Natasha in that slot. Then we go to the second one, and let's see. So we have mainly imaginary and wind weaknesses, as well as one physical and one ice. So we're definitely gonna have Well on the team. We are definitely going to have Pella on the team, since I'm not running her on the first team. And then because we want to make sure we can get as much weakness break as possible as well, and also I see that one of the minor enemies, although it's not really like the biggest deal, and also just to boost this team up even more, we can add Silverwolf. And then just based on what we're looking for, we can see which healer we want. Now there's not any lightning weaknesses, so Bailu's not gonna have that kind of niche, but she'll be able to heal up just fine. I could put Bailu with the secondary team, and then I could put Natasha with the first team. And that's pretty much what I do to build for these stages. So you're just going to have different teams just fully based on what you're fighting against. Because when I have my like two main teams, my main DPS for the second team has been Serval. But there's not really many lightning weaknesses in these first few stages. So I've actually just found it to be better to not run her at all for these stages. But when there are lightning weaknesses and she can help out in that way, like I think there is a stage, I think it's stage 2, I want to say. Yeah, stage 2 has a lot of lightning weaknesses. We have 2 on this phase, and then we have 2 on this phase as well. So yeah, Serval was very good for this phase. I definitely slapped her onto one of the teams, and she put in work. But yeah, so sometimes you're not going to be able to, just based on the enemies, there's going to be some characters that just aren't worth using. Because like if we go to stage 3, as we can see, there's 1 lightning here, and then there's none here. So like she could be useful here, but since there's double quantum, I would use Sela and Bronya instead. And then I wouldn't want to use her here because there's no lightning weakness. So yeah, just making sure you are pairing the enemy weaknesses, having those characters on your team to be able to deal with those, is gonna be able to get you a long way there. And if you're having trouble clearing something, then you gotta build up your characters more, level them up, level up light cones, level up traces, level up the relics, get better relics, all that kind of fun stuff. But yeah, I hope this helped. Let me know in the comments how far you all are in Memory of Chaos. But yeah, thank you all for watching.